We're now in the final stretch of this bag. So take your exterior and make sure that it is inside out, and make sure that your lining is right side out. You'll be putting the lining inside of the exterior. Now, if you have a preference for what is the front and the back and which way you want the purse to open, now is the time to figure that out and figure which way you want this. I'm okay with the zipper pockets on the inside being either way, so I'm just going to go ahead and stick this in. Make sure that the zipper tails are inside. Now, I also made sure that before I started that I had marked the center of my exterior gusset, and that is where I will match up one of these inside seams at the end of the lining. Even though I'm going to be leaving a gap, I'm going to clip around the whole bag, and then I will remove some of the pins, some of the clips. Make sure that this seam between the gusset and the side goes out towards the gusset. I'll turn it over and do the same thing on the other side. You'll notice this end gusset does go down a little bit while the lining is straight, so you just need to make sure that that you match up those raw edges. Okay, so I have clipped around the whole top of the bag. If you decided to turn the bag through an interior pocket, you can sew this whole thing and turn through the pocket, but I did not do that, and so I am going to leave a gap across most of this top panel, and that's how I'll be opening this or turning this. If you used foam or Decoval, you will probably want to make it a little bit wider because they can get fairly thick, but my bag doesn't have I didn't use very thick vinyl or fabric, so it should turn easily through this gap. close to the end. Sometimes I forget to stop and keep sewing, sew the whole thing closed, so don't do that. Okay. Now I'm going to turn the bag right side out. Make sure to poke out all the corners. Okay, I'm going to start putting, as I finish turning this right side out, I am going to use clips around the whole top. Okay, for this final part, you may want to get out a little ruler and then you can measure and make sure that as you are turning it in, that it is staying 1 inch wide. I generally eyeball it the first time as I'm folding the raw edges in, and then I use my ruler to fix it. This vinyl is pretty stable and it turns very nicely, but not all vinyls or fabrics are like that. So now I am ready to sew the whole outside. What I like to do is sew around it twice. You don't have to, you can sew around it just once, but I like to sew about 3/8 of an inch from the edge, and then, or sorry, 1/8 of an inch from an edge, 3 millimeters, and then sew again another 1/4 inch or 6 millimeters from my first stitch. I lengthen my stitches, my stitch length, so it can go over the vinyl easier. Just be careful over this one. There's 4 thicker seams, so be careful as you go over them. This is not a very difficult vinyl to sew, but I've sewn some vinyls while making this purse that were a lot thicker, so I just sew very carefully over that seam. Okay, now I'm technically finished sewing, but I am going to sew around one more time like I mentioned. Okay, so the sewing portion is done on this purse, except for the strap and the zipper tail, which I have a video for the zipper tail that goes along with my Artemis clutch pattern, which coordinates with this Artemis handbag pattern, and it has the exact same steps as this pattern. So I will send you over to that video.